I want to do a video directed towards young women because I'd like to tell them what lies they're being taught and are going to be taught. And there's a couple of lies. And the first lie is you're going to have a career. Okay, no, a tiny fraction of people have careers, maybe 2%. Okay, most people have jobs.
Yeah.
And the definition of a job is an activity that you get paid for because you wouldn't do it voluntarily. Okay, so first of all, you're not going to have a career, you're going to have a job. Second, most jobs aren't very desirable. They're not very meaningful. They're not the center place for your life. And even if you have a career, like, for example, if you go into law, you're going to find that it's very, very demanding and very, very difficult and very, very stressful and very, very competitive. And you're not going to find the fulfillment of your desire, for example, for intimate, close interpersonal relationships in a competitive domain like law. It's just not going to happen. And if you go and be a doctor, then you're going to be looking at 60-hour weeks. And so careers are exceptionally demanding. You're never done. You're always working. And jobs are people pay you to do jobs because the jobs are difficult and unpleasant and require responsibility and difficult decisions. Okay, so that's the first lie. The second lie is that career or job is actually the fundamental purpose of life. And that's not true. The most important thing in life is your family, your relationship, and your children. And you might not know that when you're 19, because what the hell do you know when you're 19? You don't know anything. 7 years ago, you were 12. You don't know anything.
Yeah.
And what you don't understand is that by the time you're 40, if you don't have a family and children, you are one lost soul. Because as you get older, you know, and I mean, I've had a very good career and it's still going just great guns. And I don't expect it to end, you know, unless someone gets particularly irritated with me for another 15 or 20 years. But I can tell you that despite all that, despite the fact that I'm absolutely fascinated by my job and my career, and I'm in a very fortunate position because it's an extraordinarily interesting job. Ever since I had kids, they were the most important thing in my life. And as I get older, that just becomes more and more and more clear. If you want to have a balanced life, and you should want that, you know, because the other thing you'll find, and this is God's gospel truth, is that the older you get, if you have any sense at all, the more important your family is to you. Like the utility of your career, maybe that peaks around 35 or 40, and it starts to decline pretty rapidly after that. And what happens, if you're fortunate, you have someone in your life that you love, that you've woven yourself together with, and you have some kids so that you have something to do from the time you're 50 till the time you're 80. And so it's a real mistake. It's a barren future without children, man. I can tell you that. It's a real mistake. If you're not situated with a family in the latter half of your life, especially if you also don't have a partner, you're one lonesome, isolated, miserable creature. Not having children, and you'll wake up when you're 35 if you're not careful, if you're female, and you'll think, uh-oh, I don't have any time left to have kids. And that is not fun. That is not a good realization. And then maybe you'll be on the assisted reproduction carousel for the next 10 years. And believe me, that's like having a near fatal disease. That is not entertaining.
Look, I worked in law firms, with law firms for a very long period of time, and I worked for lots of high-end women, lots of them. And they were usually extremely attractive, they were extremely intelligent, they were extremely driven, they were very, very conscientious. They varied in how agreeable they were. Some were disagreeable, litigator types, and some were more agreeable. They often had a harder time in the law firms. But the law firms lose all their women in the 30s. They all bail out at partner level.
A lot of them, we should say a lot
Jesus,
of them.
It's
a good percentage.
It's a huge percentage. And it isn't because the law firms don't want them. The law firms want them because you can't find people like that. They're really rare, especially if they're also rainmakers, if they can bring in money. So the law firms bend themselves over backwards trying to keep the women. They can't keep them. Why? Well, the women decide that, oh, I'm working 18 hours a day, flat out, all the time, 7 days a week. My husband makes a fair bit of money. If I made half as much money as I made, we'd still have plenty of money. Why am I working 18 hours a day? Well, that's not the question. The question is, why would anyone work 18 hours a day? That's the mystery. And the answer is, a small minority of men are driven to do that. And so they'll do that. No matter where you put these guys, that's what they do.
Yes.
Okay, but does that mean it's correct? I think there's something wrong with these women. They hit 30, they've hit partner, they've hit the pinnacle. I mean, they could keep going if they wanted to, but they've accomplished their goal. They've definitely shown, man, they're bloody well in the game. And they wake up at 30 and they think, oh, wait a minute. I want to have a relationship, and so I want to have some time to put into that. I'd like to have kids, and I'd actually like to see my kids. It's like, is that irrational?
A 29 to 30-year-old woman, say, brings a problem to the table that a 23 to 25-year-old woman does not bring to the table, which is that she wants to have a child tomorrow, whereas a 25-year-old woman wants to have a child sometime in the next 5 years. Life, in some ways, isn't that complicated. There are fundamental, like, people think, well, what should I do with my life? Okay, well, the first answer to that is do what other people have always done, unless you're certain that you're exceptional in some manner. And even if you are, you're probably only exceptional in one direction, not in all. So what do? Well, you get as educated as you can so that you can make yourself useful, so that you have a skill or multiple skills that other people will pay you validly for. And not only because of that, but because you need to contribute to your own maintenance and to the health and survival of the broader community. Okay, so you have to do that. Get your act together. Get yourself a trade or get educated. Then you need a job. Then you need an intimate partner. Then you need a family. It's like, and if you miss any of those, then you're in trouble. Now, you might not think so because you might be cynical about it or prematurely cynical, which is so many young women, you ask them at 19, well, do you want to have children? They think, well, I don't think so. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And why people have decided that you should be some sort of authority about it is nothing but an index of how pathological our culture has become. You don't know anything. You're a child. You haven't read anything. You haven't accomplished anything. Your parents have taken care of you up to this point. And you can pronounce on something as profound as how society should be constructed. It's absurd. And it's dangerous for the women because they don't understand where they're headed. And other women lie to them. They don't sit the 19-year-olds down and say, look, like, you should pursue a career. You're smart. You've got something to offer. And society needs your intelligence. But you better look the hell out because women have complicated lives and they also have to have a family. And you're going to struggle like mad to figure out how to balance those two things. And nobody's going to help you.